Part number 10 of unit number 3 multi-level inverter explains the carrier-based PWM schemes and applications of multi-level inverter. Carrier-based PWM schemes are generally classified into two ways. The first is phase-shifted multi-carrier modulation and the second is the level-shifted multi-carrier modulation. So let us first of all understand the phase-shifted multi-carrier modulation scheme. So in general, a multi-level inverter with M voltage levels requires M-1 triangular carriers. If we want to produce PWM signals for the IGBTs used in the construction of 7-level cascaded edge bridge multi-level inverter, then we have to substitute M is equal to 7 in this expression. So if we substitute M is equal to 7, then 7 minus 1 is equal to 6. We need 6 triangular signals for phase shifted multi-carrier modulation, and that is for 7-level CHB. In the phase shifted multi-carrier modulation, all the triangular carriers have the same frequency and same peak-to-peak amplitude. But there is a phase displacement between any two adjacent carrier waves, which is given by phi CR is equal to 360 degree divided by M minus 1. Phi CR represents the phase displacement between consecutive carrier signals, and for 7-level CHB we have to substitute M is equal to 7. So 7 minus 1 is 6 and 360 degree divided by 6 is equal to 60 degree. So for 7-level CHB we need 6 carrier signals and consecutive phase displacement between the carrier waves should be 60 degree. In the diagram, you can see that there are 6 carrier signals: VCR1, VCR2, VCR3, then VCR1 minus, VCR2 minus, and VCR3 minus. 6 triangular carrier signals. All of them have the same frequency. That means the time required to complete one cycle by each of the carrier signal is same, as well as peak-to-peak magnitude of all the carrier signal is also same. The only difference is in the phase displacement. In modulation, the gate signals are generated by comparing the modulating wave with the carrier signals. So in the diagram shown here, the principle of the phase shifted modulation for this 7-level CHB inverter, where 6 triangular carriers are required with a 60 degree phase displacement as discussed in the previous slide. So of the 3-phase sinusoidal modulating waves, only phase A, modulating wave VMA, is presented for the simplicity purpose. The carriers VCR1, VCR2 and VCR3, these 3 carriers are used to generate gatings for the upper switches S11, S12 and S13 in the left leg of power cell H1, H2 and H3 respectively. The other 3 carriers VCR1 minus, VCR2 minus and VCR3 minus, which are 180 degree apart with respect to VCR1, VCR2 and VCR3 respectively, and they produce the gatings for the upper switches like S31, S32 and S33 in the right side leg of bridge 1, bridge 2 and bridge 3 respectively. whereas the gating signals for all the lower switches in H-bridge units are not shown because these lower switches operate in a complementary manner with respect to their corresponding upper switches, which states that when the switch S11 is in the on-state condition, then S41 switch should remain in the off-state condition. Similarly, when S11 is in the off-state condition, then S41 switch should be in the on-state condition. So this is the meaning of complementary manner. The PWM scheme discussed here is essentially the unipolar scheme. The gatings for the upper switches S11 and S31 in bridge 1 are generated by comparing this VCR1 and VCR1 minus with VMA. The H1 output voltage VH1 is switched either between 0 and VDC during this positive half cycle or between 0 and negative VDC during the negative half cycle of the fundamental frequency. The inverter phase voltage VAN can be found out by adding all the output of H-bridge unit together, which means VH1 plus VH2 plus VH3 is equal to VAN, voltage between the A and N terminal at the output side. It is clear that the inverter phase voltage waveform is obtained by 7 voltage steps, which are plus 3 VDC, plus 2 VDC, plus VDC, 0, minus VDC, minus 2 VDC and minus 3 VDC. So this is the waveform of the output voltage of this 7-level CHB inverter when it is operated with the phase shifted multi-carrier modulation technique. Moving ahead with the next PWM scheme, that is the level shifted multi-carrier modulation. So here is the diagram, and similar to the phase shifted modulation, an M-level CHB inverter using this level shifted multi-carrier modulation scheme requires M-1 triangular carriers. Here also we need 6 carrier signals for 7-level CHB, and all of them must have the same frequency and amplitude. So the 6 carrier signals VCR1, VCR2, VCR3 above the 0 reference, VCR3 minus, VCR2 minus and VCR1 minus, 3 carrier signals below the 0 reference, and 1 modulating signal VMA. All these carrier signals are triangular in shape. All of them must have the same peak to peak value, as well as all of them should have same frequency. The M-1 triangular carriers are vertically disposed, right? Rather than horizontal displacement, these carrier signals have the vertical displacement such that the bands they occupy are contiguous. Now let us understand how to produce 6 gating signals using this concept for 7-level CHB. The uppermost and lowermost carrier pair, which is VCR1 and VCR1 minus. These 2 carrier signals are used to generate the gatings for switches S11 and S31 in the power cell H1. When the comparison of this modulating signal is done with the VCR1 in the positive side and VCR1 in the negative side, we can produce gating signal for switch 11 and 31 of the H-bridge unit 1. And by operating the switches of H1 bridge using these type of gating signals, we can produce the output of bridge 1. The innermost carrier pair, that is VCR3 and VCR3 minus, these are used to generate the gatings for S13 and S33 in bridge number 3. The remaining carrier pair VCR2 and VCR2 minus are for S12 and S32 of bridge number 2. For the carriers above the zero reference, which are VCR1, VCR2 and VCR3, the switches S11, S12 and S13 are turned on when phase A, that is VMA modulating signal, is higher than the corresponding carrier signals. For the carriers below the zero reference, which are VCR3 minus, 2 minus and 1 minus, the S31, S32 and S33 are switched on when the modulating signal is lower than the carrier signals. The gate signals for the lower switches S41, S21 in the first bridge, 4222 in the second bridge, S43 and S23 in the third bridge are complementary to their corresponding upper switches, and for the simplicity purpose, the gating signals of all these switches are not presented over here. Thus, by producing the gating signals of switches used in the construction of 7-level CHB in this manner, we can produce 7-level output across these terminals. Applications of multi-level inverter. The first one is reactive power compensation, second is back-to-back interdrive, and third is variable speed drives. Now let us understand each of them one by one. The first one is reactive power compensation. The multi-level inverter can be used as a reactive power compensator. So to compensate the reactive power, normally the reactive load across the supply or parallel to the load is connected. When a purely capacitive load, the inverter operating as DC to AC converter can draw a reactive current from the AC supply. The multi-level converter directly connected to the power system for the reactive power compensation. The load side is connected to the AC supply and the DC side is open, which is not connected to any DC voltage. For the control of reactive power flow, the gates of inverter switches must be controlled. And when the multi-level converter draws pure reactive power, the phase voltage and current are 90° apart, and capacitor charging and discharging can be balanced. Such a converter, when serving for the reactive power compensation, is called as a static volt-ampere reactive generator. Here the type of the multi-level converter used for the reactive power compensation is the flying capacitor multi-level inverter, and those balancing capacitors are used as a compensator elements. So we know that capacitor has ability to produce the reactive power. So whenever this reactive load demands the reactive power, so instead of drawing the reactive power from the generating side, it is better to produce the reactive power within the premises. So that can be achieved by appearing these string of capacitors across this line. And that can be done by controlling the gate terminals of the IGBTs used in the construction of this flying capacitor multi-level inverter. So this is how we can control the flow of reactive power into the system, and this portion of multi-level converter which is behaving as a compensator is generally referred as a static volt ampere reactive generator. So all the three multi-level converters can be used in reactive power compensation without having the voltage unbalance problem. But in this diagram, the flying capacitor multi-level inverter is used for reactive power compensation. Next application of multi-level inverter is the back-to-back intertie. Two diode clamp multi-level converters that are connected with a DC capacitor link. The first diode clamp multi-level converter and the second diode clamp multi-level converter. The first one is operated as a rectifier and the second is operated as an inverter. So the left side converter serves as the rectifier for the utility interface, and the right side converter serves as the inverter to supply the load. Each switch becomes on and off once per the fundamental cycle. The voltage across each capacitor remains well balanced while maintaining the staircase voltage wave, because the unbalanced capacitor voltages on both sides tend to compensate each other. Such a DC link is categorized as back-to-back intertie. So the back-to-back intertie system that connects two asynchronous systems can be regarded as frequency changer, phase shifter, a power flow controller. The power flow between the two systems can be controlled bidirectionally. Next application of multi-level inverter is the adjustable speed drives. The back-to-back intertie can be applied to utility compatible adjustable speed drive where input is the constant frequency AC source and output is the variable frequency AC load. So in the back-to-back, what we do is we are converting this constant frequency AC signal into zero frequency DC, and thereafter zero frequency DC signal is converted as per the required frequency in AC. From an ideal utility compatible system, it requires unity power factor, negligible harmonics, no EMI and high efficiency. Let us summarize the key points of multi-level inverter. So in this unit, the output voltage and the power increases as the number of the level increases. The second key point we understood is adding a voltage level involves adding a main switching device to each phase. The harmonic content decreases as the number of the level increases and it eliminates the requirement of the filters. Apart from that, increasing the output power and the voltage does not require an increase in the rating of individual components. Rather than increasing the ratings of the individual components, we are increasing the number of components having the lower ratings. By proper series or parallel combination of the components, we are able to achieve the higher output power as well as the voltage. The static and the dynamic voltage sharing among the switching devices is built into a structure through either clamping diodes or the balancing capacitors. The switching devices do not encounter any voltage sharing problems. For this reason, the multi-level inverters can be easily applied for high power applications such as large motor drives. The fundamental output voltage of the inverter is set by the DC bus voltage VDC.